Meanwhile, it is still not clear when will AU Chair Cyril Ramaphosa release a statement after his envoys visited Zimbabwe. The team failed to meet with all stakeholders. To get more on this, we now cross live to Harare, Zimbabwe, and we are in conversation with the MDC representatives on international affairs, Professor Welshman Ncube. Professor Ncube, very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, as per your assessment, how did the visit of the envoys go?
Well, our understanding at the moment is that the envoys met Mr. Mnangagwa, who apparently was not keen that they meet anybody else, and they returned to South Africa. We were advised by the South African ambassador that they intended to come back, and when they come back, they would then make the necessary engagements with the rest of the stakeholders, including ourselves. So we still preparing for them. We are preparing our documentation, our paperwork, and we hope that they will return soon.
I take it that you are optimistic that the meeting is still going to happen with the envoys.
Yes, we are optimistic. We have no reason to believe that they will not come back to Zimbabwe. The crisis is still in place. There is still massive arrests of people. Lawyers are being prevented from doing their work. There are abductions still. There are violations of human rights. The economy is still on free fall. In other words, the crisis is in full swing. Even have joined the call for a dialogue to ensure that there is peaceful resolution of the crisis that we face as a nation.
And I want to talk about that dialogue and your place in it. There are those who suggest that perhaps you're unable to reach that point of dialogue, as in genuine dialogue, for as long as you refuse to see President Emmerson Mnangagwa as a legitimate leader. What do you say to that suggestion?
Well, our grievance, our very issue is that for a long time now, Zimbabwe has had repeated disputed elections, which have not resulted in a government which derives its authority from the people. And we cannot walk away from that as being at the heart of the crisis in the country. If we walk away from that, then there is nothing to talk about. There is a crisis of legitimacy, a crisis of repeated failure to allow free and fair elections. We have had a coup that took place in 2017, and that coup has not been cured by any legitimate election thereafter. And everything goes back to the failure to recognize the sovereign right of the people of Zimbabwe to elect a government of their choice without let or hindrance.
I want to talk about what some of the activists here in South Africa have been calling for. They are calling for the implementation of the African peer review mechanism. But if you look at the manner in which it's drafted, some would argue that part of the reason it may possibly fail is because it's supposed to be a non-adversarial mechanism, and also that it calls for a self-assessment, that the countries subject themselves to a self-assessment review before they draw up a national action plan. Now here there are very differing points of view. In fact, you're at polar opposites about what is happening in Zimbabwe. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I didn't get some of what you said, but I think I got the gist of it. Our view is basically that one, SADC has, as an organization, has an obligation to intervene in the affairs of Zimbabwe, because the situation in Zimbabwe does not only threaten the security and peace of the people of Zimbabwe, but is a threat to regional peace and security. The African Union, which is chaired by President Cyril Ramaphosa, has an obligation also under the African Charter to be seized of the Zimbabwean matter. What matters is to basically get to a position where the Zimbabweans themselves are assisted to talk to each other so that solutions are found on the issues that underpin the current crisis, and they are all well known. And that is what is necessary at the end of the day.
So, in your view, what role should SADC and the African Union therefore play going forward? Because we know some of the inbuilt structures of, say, SADC, for instance, made it somewhat difficult for the kind of intervention, robust intervention that you're calling for.
We believe that the role of SADC, the role of the AU, should be facilitative. In this instance, we as Zimbabweans on our own have failed to engage in any serious, genuine dialogue. What we seem to be capable of doing, at least on the part of the state, is to believe that coercing people, arresting people, using the military, using violence, will resolve the problems of this country. We know that is a well-trodden path historically, which in fact is the road to nowhere. It will not resolve the people of Zimbabwe's problems today. It will not give the current government any traction at all. It is simply a dead end. What is required ultimately is dialogue. You can use as much violence against the people as you want, but the problems of this nation will not go away until we are able to sit down and talk to each other and resolve them.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us, MDC representative on international affairs, Professor Welshman Ncube.